Hey guys, Rod Morgan here for Rod Morgan Hands for War. I'm with my Gracie Jiu-Jitsu teacher and actually really good friend Eli Knight. Eli, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to let me ask you a few questions. So I've known you for a lot of years, but a lot of people don't. So when did you first get started in the martial arts? Not necessarily Jiu-Jitsu, but the martial arts itself.
I was about 14 or 15 years old, I guess. I got started in Taekwondo because it's all there was around here that I knew about.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But then, let's see, after a couple of years, that was good because it got me introduced to martial arts, and I started researching everything I could, which was basically books that you had back then. I maybe had a VHS tape of something else, but then when I met up with Jason Hawkins, and he was doing jiu-jitsu and cross-training a lot of different martial arts, and he was doing, and it was a Filipino style of jiu-jitsu.
That's where I met you.
You're right, and so it was a little different than the Japanese style of jiu-jitsu. Talking to Jason about it and understanding the differences about it, it was a little more fluid. And what Florindo Visitacion, who's it was V Arnis Jitsu at the time, and so they called him Professor V, and his style was a little more fluid because it had that Arnis flavor to it, and Arnis was very like patterns put together and very fluid and going from one move to the next, so it didn't have the rigidity of maybe the traditional Japanese style jiu-jitsu.
Right. Now you also you studied I know you studied Muay Thai, and not only with Jason, but who else?
I consider Jeff Westfall my main source of instruction under that.
Sure.
And who is under Ajahn Sarasude Chai, who is credited with bringing Thai boxing to the United States. That's really the only martial art that I feel like I've kept up with anywhere close to jiu-jitsu over the years.
Okay. And then also Eskrima, Kali Arnis, whatever, because we were in class together, and so I know you spent a lot of time in that. Anything else? Judo?
Judo, yeah. I mean, being so closely related to jiu-jitsu and because of the people that I'm around constantly, you know, I still have exposure to JKD and to Silat and to Filipino martial arts, and you know, I have good friends that are good judokas, and so you know, the judo has been very helpful to me because other than wrestling, you know, most of jiu-jitsu takedowns come more from judo.
Sure.
You know, so.
Absolutely. So when did you first discover Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and when and how old were you when you got started?
Like most of the rest of Americans, it was like 1993, and I just started taking what we call jiu-jitsu, and it was jiu-jitsu. I just want to differentiate that from Gracie Jiu-Jitsu,
right.
Obviously. And so in 1993, the UFC came out. This little skinny Brazilian guy, like, you know, goes through and he's taking people down and choking them out and arm locking them, and we were all kind of sitting around as jiu-jitsu guys saying, no, that's jiu-jitsu. Oh, okay, that's a little different than what we've been doing. And so, you know, we watched closely, and that's I really started getting more into jiu-jitsu at the time with Jason, and we actually met Jeff Westfall, who I mentioned was a Muay Thai instructor. He was already experimenting with some Brazilian jiu-jitsu at the time. I had met up with some Brazilian jiu-jitsu people and gone to some seminars, and he would show us a few things. And so then we found out that Hoist was going to be doing some seminars in the Midwest, and this was probably around 94, 95. And so we'd go see him if he was in St. Louis, or he was in Memphis, or he was in Louisville, and we just kind of stalked him. And then pretty soon he started to recognize us because we hit up so many of the seminars, and eventually he asked if we wanted to become a training association under the Gracie Academy, which is where he was with Horian at the time.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, after you got started in that, because I know now you are, now what year was that? Do you remember when you got started? You said it was in 93 or 94, 95. How old were you then?
Man, I gotta do math now. Let's see, what is it, 2016, and I'm like 39 now. Man, I don't know, you put me on the spot with some math.
Well, that's all right. You were in your early 20s.
I was still a teenager whenever I started with Jason, so I mean, yeah.
Well, the point I'm getting at is you've been in the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu for quite some time now. I know you are a Hoist Gracie black belt, representing his style as not only a black belt, but also a teacher, and you were also a competitor. So why don't you tell me about some of your competition, because I'm pretty sure you won some of those competitions.
Yeah, I've won some and lost some, and so I like the competition aspect. Under Hoist Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, we're kind of, from that guise, not really in line with the International Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Federation, which is a big governing body over Jiu-Jitsu. And so whenever you're talking about world championships and Pan-American championships and stuff like that, you tend to talk about IBJJF and different affiliations in there. With Hoist, wants to keep it as pure, closely related to Helio Gracie style Jiu-Jitsu. And
the self-defense, the real jiu-jitsu.
Self-defense, the street aspect of it, the self-defense aspect of it. And so when I'm teaching and I say I'm teaching this in line with Hoist Gracie, I'm not going to be showing a beer and bolo sweep.
Right.
I'm not going to be showing this is worth how many points in a competition. Now, having said that, on a personal note, I'm not as vehemently opposed to competition, and I enjoy the competition. I think that there is a benefit to training in that because of the attributes it can build.
Sure.
As long as you understand, I mean, if you have a brain in your head and you've been in jiu-jitsu, I think that you're going to understand what's going to be street applicable and not street applicable. You're going to get away with this in a tournament, and this is going to get you killed on the street.
Right,
So.
Absolutely. And I know that when I interact with you, that nothing that I do is taught to me as competition jiu-jitsu. I am taught by you the traditional, and I use that term traditional to mean what Helio himself would have taught through Hoist to you and then to me. So now that you've been doing this and you are Gracie a black belt, I understand that you've been contacted by a very famous organization and you're now helping represent them. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
You're talking about Funker, yeah.
Funker Tactical.
Funker Tactical, they are a famous group known for gun and gear, for tactical training videos, for doing more like weapons-oriented and law enforcement, military type training videos, and they have a big online and media presence, and so and they're well respected in that community. But they're kind of like all things combat,
right?
You know, so they're very combat oriented, and so you can't really have a discussion about combat when just take it from the shooting and the military aspect or the law enforcement aspect. You have to talk about martial arts in that conversation. So they're branching out more to the martial arts sector, and they've been doing that for several years now.
Right, Ryan Hoover, then you've got Doug Makeda,
Fred Mastro,
absolutely.
Yeah, Jerry Wahongi is now on board, and they've got some brilliant martial artists in there. And so I was very lucky, and I feel like very lucky, very fortunate, very honored to help represent jiu-jitsu and show what jiu-jitsu can bring to the table from that aspect. And I also like to consider myself in that group, kind of the less lethal guy, because jiu-jitsu can be brutal and violent and deadly, but it's not, that if you get into a physical conflict, I have to end this in murder.
Sure.
So,
well, I know that one of the things that really, after I was shown, and at some point I will give my testimony, so to speak, on how I was made the conversion as I don't know how to say it, as a wake-up call, a realization. But one of the things that you and Jason, I know it explained to me, one of the great things that I've been taught through this is so many martial arts are like flipping a switch on and flipping a switch off. Whereas with jiu-jitsu, it's a volume control, because you are in control and you can keep it at 1 to 5, or if things go south, it can go to 10 like that. And that's one of the things that really attracted me, and I know that is with you, and you've explained that a lot to me. So is that one of the things that you are sharing with these guys, that you're trying to promote?
Yeah, absolutely. Because not every conflict that you're going to run into, in fact, the extreme minority of conflicts I think that you're going to run into, depending on what your status in life is, for the average civilian, you're going to be more likely to get into a scuffle in a public setting, that is going to be fairly mild compared to something that a police officer might get into,
sure,
or that you might get into if you're involved in military and stuff. So it is important to be able to know about weapons and know how to handle weapons, to be able to know how to handle a firearm, and to know how to handle yourself with a knife or anything else. But it's also important to follow what we call the drunk uncle rule. So if your drunk uncle is getting out of hand at a family reunion, and you need to calm him down, you need to subdue him, you know, you can't use a knife or a gun to do that. Yeah, so I think that's a good, to be able to control that volume like you said. And we also refer to that volume because there's not as much emphasis on striking. Striking is definitely an element of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, I consider it a complete martial art in the fact that it deals with every range of the fight. It deals with striking, it deals with standing grappling, self-defense, it deals with ground grappling, it deals with submissions. But you know, there's not really good reasons to, what did Theodore Roosevelt say? He said, you know, don't hit if it's at all honorably possible to avoid doing so, but never hit softly, you know?
Yeah.
So if you need that volume, you need to be able to control and subdue somebody and to as peacefully, as non-violently resolve the situation as possible, then you don't really have a lot better answers in jiu-jitsu for that.
That's great. Well, listen, where can people find you?
Oh, I'm here right now.
Where are you teaching?
Yes, you can look me up online for nightbjj.com. That's how you can get a hold of me, and it's got my contact information. I'm an instructor I'm the senior supervising instructor at a Three Rivers Martial Arts Academy. Also work closely with my fiance who runs Atmosphere Martial Arts, Amy Kilpatrick, and then you can see my videos online on my YouTube channel and all that social media stuff if you just Google Eli Knight, you know. And Funker Martial Arts is the new channel that Funker Tactical has branched off to, and there's going to be a lot more, as long as I play my cards right, a lot more of me on that site.
I'm sure we'll be seeing a whole lot more of you. Listen, brother, I can't thank you enough for taking time to talk with me here.
My pleasure, man.
Thank you guys for tuning in. See you next time.